When we examine the way in which we look at success in this world, we often look at successful figures in the world of entertainment, in the world of sports, in the world of business. And the past couple of weeks in the world of sports, we've seen major developments in terms of new leadership and people being traded and trade rumors and retirements. We've seen Hines retire from Pittsburgh Steelers. We saw Tebow get traded to the New York Jets. Now he's in a position to lead that team with Sanchez. And we saw Peyton Manning make a heartfelt announcement of leaving the Indiana Colts. And now he is on the roster of the Denver Broncos. But what I saw significant in this particular time frame of the moving of pieces, moving of personnel, if you will, of athletes, I particularly saw and wanted to pay attention to the way in which the story of Peyton Manning, his rise, coming from a football dynasty family, to him standing before a press conference of media outlets, making a decision about his future. And what I noticed in his press conference was not only the owner and the coach just praising him for his work, but that the team was going in a new direction. And all of this comes because he had an injury, a neck injury, and so most of the season he was out and dealing with that, and still not 100%, and still not throwing the ball like he was doing previously before the incident. But the rumors were swirling around what are the Colts going to do now with Peyton Manning, because they have just now acquired first-round draft pick for quarterback. And so the decision was made that they were releasing him from his contract. Now keep in mind, this is 48 hours prior to him getting a guaranteed $20+ million on his contract. So it was a business decision, number one, but also it was moving the team and his roster in a different direction. So with all that being said, what I noticed the most is his struggle with where his life is now. What I mean by that, his struggle with, as an athlete, all that he has been dependent upon is his body. Not only his mental capacity to throw the ball, but his body and functioning in that way. And that shifted for him. As a matter of fact, his value on the team shifted as well. And so Peyton Manning struggled in the press conference, tears in his eyes, choking back tears. Because it's one thing to retire. There's a bittersweet there. It is because you're leaving on your own terms. It's another to be forced out because you no longer can perform at optimum level. And I want to examine today how in the world of sports, what do you do when your body fails you? What do you do when mentally you know you are capable of doing and performing, but the body doesn't live up to that expectation? Peyton Manning, football dynasty. Peyton Manning brought a ring to the Colts. Championship quarterback. Brother is in the league. Father was in the league and a coach. Highly respected and regarded. endorsements deals, multi-millions of dollars, and now he can't perform. Is he still valuable? Is it still worth the risk to use him? And those are the kinds of questions that I'm sure that team owners, sponsors have been mulling over these past few months, especially during the season, as they saw that his injury was really debilitating. But what I really wanted to examine today is the way in which we deal with loss. How do you recover from a loss of an ability, loss of a job, loss of a career, loss of a beloved, a lover, a partner, loss of an animal, anything that you were dependent upon to be there one day, and by nightfall it's no longer there? What do you do in your life when you're dealing with loss? And loss in this context around Peyton Manning is a critical one to look at, because we in a society always hold athletes in high regard. It's because the body has been looked upon as a machine. And we do know that the machine gets worn down, so they retire, and the machine gets bruised and battered, so they get on the DL list, disabled list. The machine can be at optimum speed and agility, and they win all numerous awards and break all kinds of records. This body, this same body that we depend solely on as athletes, is the very body that's also unpredictable. Isn't that like life? That you can wake up one day, as Sweet Honey in the Rock says, no one knows when the sun rises how the day is going to end. You can rise up in morning, and by nightfall your life could change. Well, in Peyton Manning's life, we see that. One hit took him out the game for the whole season. One hit caused him to be insecure about his career. One hit caused the owners to rethink whether or not he will be viable long term with the team. One hit, and now he's no longer as viable as he used to be, according to the Indiana Colts. The Denver Broncos have a different story. So what do you do with loss? And what I mean by that is, loss is the way it is. It's doing away with something. It's a misplacement of something, or something going away never to return. It's the ability to bury, to push down, to regard as never having to possess again. Loss. And many of us in this room have experienced loss. Some of you, the loss of a career. Some of you, a loss of a spouse. Some of you, a loss of a beloved mother, father, sister, brother, nephew. Loss of a dream. Loss of an idea. Loss of your physical capabilities, your mental capabilities. Loss. And I want to submit to you today that part of the journey of living is living through loss, picking up the pieces, going forward. But in order for you to do that, you got to first name it. You got to name what the loss is. As they say, you got to name it and claim it. Not dwell in it, but just honor the fact that there's been a loss. And when there's a loss, there's a grieving process. And so it wasn't surprising to see Peyton Manning break down and cry on television. The grief his inability to be of service to the team, the grief of not having your body perform the way it used to perform, the grief of standing before media outlets and being asked all kinds of questions about your recovery, the grief of knowing that you would never be looked at the same from this day forward, the grief of knowing the relationships that you've built in that locker room, now you have to put aside and create another relationship in another locker room, the grief of knowing the playbook season after season, and now you have to learn a new kind of playbook, the grief of selling your home because you're now forced to move to another state and city because of a new career, the grief of taking your children out of school and knowing that they're going to lose connections with their friends. It's all part of loss, and it's real, and it's tangible. And the part that I want to focus in on is that most of the time when it comes to grief and loss, the reason we are so uncomfortable with it is because we are not in control of its recovery. So when we lose something, we don't know if we can ever recover the emotion again. Or if we go and we really grieve it, will we recover? When we go to that dark place, when we go to that place of sadness, we go to that place of uncertainty, will we be able to recover? It's not that we fear the loss, we fear the process of recovery. Because one thing about grief and one thing about loss, it has a way of showing up in the most inopportune time. The moment when you are laughing and playing and being jovial, and the memory of something kicks in, and you're back in that place again. Peyton Manning would have so many memories of playing in Indianapolis, and that first day when he plays against his former team, he's going to have to deal with that grief of that all over again, the loss of that all over again. He's going to remember what's probably been said in the locker room at this particular point. He's going to remember what the city felt like when they won that championship. He's going to have so many memories at that first opportune time when he's in competition with his former team. And that's how it is in our own lives. It's when you lose something and you go back to the place where you lost it and you grieve it. You remember that your mother used to live in a house and you go back to the house now. You think about that each time you go back to the house that she's no longer there or he's no longer there. Or the loss of a dog, and so you look at the backyard and the dog house is empty. Or you open up the utility room and the water bowl is on the top shelf. Loss, grief. Or you take a certain route every morning on the job that you had for so many years, and you no longer have that job, and you decide to take that route to go look for another job. Same time, same route. And you come around the bend in that building which bears your former company's name. You're no longer pulling up in employee parking. You're now pulling next to the other building in visitors parking. Grief, loss, all of those things are connected to Peyton Manning. And Peyton Manning is a great teacher for us, a great teacher for us, because he's teaching even in the moment of standing before the outlets, before the media outlets. He's teaching us you got to face your loss. You got to own up to the fact that you lost it, number one. Number two, you got to be willing to move. So not only is there loss, but you also got to be willing to move away from the loss. So the second thing I want to talk about is the movement that entails and intake when it comes to loss. So you can't stay stuck. That's what I'm saying. That when you are dealing with the loss, you must also be willing to move. Move forward. Move on. Move through. Move without. That's step number two. Be willing to move. Once you've lost it, acknowledge the loss. Grieve the loss. Sit with the loss. But be willing to move. Through it, around it, over it. Even take it with you, but move. And lastly, not only do you have to acknowledge the loss, and not only do you need to move beyond the loss, but thirdly, you also have to be willing to embrace the new. Not only did Peyton Manning have to deal with the loss, not only did Peyton Manning choose to move, but he's also embracing the new. He's excited about the Denver Broncos. Denver is excited to embrace him. All of the NFL is buzzing around what the Broncos are going to be this season if Peyton Manning stays healthy and continue what he's done in Indiana. He's excited about change and growth and movement. He's excited that he can continue to live out his dreams. He's excited that he can continue to follow his passion. He's excited that he is still accepted as one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. He is excited that he's still able to build relationships and trust with teammates. He is excited that he's still valuable. He is excited about the next move. So not only do you have to acknowledge the loss, and not only do you have to move, but also you got to be willing to accept the new. So as you move through your loss, remember on the other side of it is something new. A new relationship can develop in the loss of another one. A new animal can come into your life in the loss of another animal. A new career idea can come through in the loss of an old career. A new relationship can form in the loss of a prior relationship. A new residence can take place in the loss of a foreclosed home. A new idea, a new thought, a new innovation can come in the face of a failed business idea. All around you, newness is springing up. That's one thing about spring that I love, is that all winter long, the trees get bare. All winter long, the soil is hard. All winter long, it seems to be barren. And just when spring turns its corner, the same tree that was once barren, now leaves are sprouting up on it. We can hear the chirping of the birds. We can see beautiful flowers blooming. I mean, it's just a season. And that's what loss really is. It's a season. And if you stick